Welcome to the Smart Driving Cars podcast. I'm Fred Fishkin, and with me is the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alan Kornhauser. Hi, Alan.
Hey, hi, Fred.
Also with us, Jerry He, the Executive Director of CARTS Mobility. Good to see you, Jerry.
Hi, Fred.
Well, we are at the end of the 5th Annual Smart Driving Cars Summit. Really a tremendous, I think, three days here, Alan. Did this accomplish what you set out to?
Well, yeah, I think may have accomplished even more than what I set out to. I think that, that what we had here were people who I think wanted to see that our approach to the deployment of these autonomous vehicles, in other words, driverless vehicles that provide mobility, is really a more than viable and maybe the best way to transition from a development test to finally a deployment to start gaining some value out of all the investment that's been made in the technology.
And Jerry, this started out with us going to the city of Trenton, public housing there, to the school, to City Hall, and more, Senior Center in West Windsor, and the City Hall in Princeton. I think I got them all. But tell me what your thoughts are about the response of the community here. And you've been working so hard at achieving that.
Yeah, Trenton Moves started with the community. It started when we knocked on the doors on Donnelly Homes in last year. And I think to have it started at Donnelly Homes, going to Trenton Central High School, going to the City Hall, NJDOT, and then expanded beyond Trenton to West Windsor, Princeton, and other stops, we think the grand tour of Smart Driving Car Summit this year really set up the underlying tone of what we aim to achieve with Trenton Moves, Mercer Moves, and New Jersey Moves, to really create the first proof of market of this technology through a scalable deployment. And it has to start somewhere, We know where it's going to start, and then the goal is really to scale it, to make it a viable business, but also really to create benefits for the community.
And May Mobility brought an actual autonomous vehicle here to demonstrate and show the kids, show the people in the community, so they got a first-hand look at this. And I think that was really meaningful. It may not seem it at first, what's it going to do, but I think it meant a lot.
Yeah, certainly. We've made, hundreds of presentations to people, hey, what this technology is, LiDAR and stuff. But to have the kids, community members, also transportation professionals see this vehicle in person, what this looks like, and to have them take a tour, on an autonomous ride at Princeton today, I think it gives them the hands-on experience, and it really helps them to build trust, but to really also help them see the future that is now, actually. So I think to have the actual vehicle here in New Jersey is a tremendous achievement as well.
And Alan, one of the things that you did here was bring in people from other communities, other states, other countries, in fact, to talk about what is going on elsewhere and maybe the lessons that we can learn from it?
Right. I mean, the summit started with learning from others. Some other folks have been in this business much longer than we have in New Jersey. In fact, in New Jersey, we really haven't been there. By my count, as I was saying, up to this summit, there have been only 4, if you want to call them autonomous vehicles, 4 vehicles that could maybe drive themselves a little bit. 2 of them were mine in 2005 and 2007 DARPA Challenge. NVIDIA, who has an operation here in New Jersey, has had a vehicle sort of running around New Jersey. And at the third summit, we were able to attract the Ollie vehicle from Local Motors, which unfortunately no longer exists. But we were able to run it around inside the football stadium. I mean,
Well, guess
Yeah.
what? We were on a public street today.
We were on a public street and we were in a vehicle. It did have a safety driver on board, a safety observer, in case the technology didn't work. We didn't really put it through, too many hoops, but it did go up and down Prospect Street.
And we had a
so-
couple of mayors on hand and other government officials,
Yeah,
DOT.
right, and so we had mayors. We had the mayor of Trenton. We had the mayor of Princeton. We had the former mayor of Lawrence. We had the mayor of Perth Amboy, and your hometown, which who came down because part of we began this with learning from others, which is what we actually ended up beginning with, as Jerry mentioned, a preview tour, which we appropriately took the first public presence of this vehicle at Donnelly Homes, and they were appropriately first, because if we look and we look from a distance as to who might in fact benefit most from this technology, it's really the people who live at Donnelly Homes. Because if you look at the mobility opportunities that they have compared to the mobility opportunities of any neighborhood here in Princeton, I mean, it's completely different, simply because there's such a low auto ownership among the families that live there. And the reason it's low, we all know why it's low, because I guess they'd rather eat than own a car. And so therefore their mobility opportunities are substantially different than a lot of other people in New Jersey who have access to their own personal cars. And so, of course, there now to have mobility that is maybe not quite as good as your own personal car, but within its operational domain, places where it does go, it might even be better, because you don't have to park it. It's like waiting for you. Probably, certainly, if you look at the economics, it's cheaper. Now, the way we look at the economics of a personal car, we forget that we paid for it, or that we have lease payments, or that once every 6 months we have to pay insurance. It's interesting the way insurance is charged. They don't charge you every time you get in the vehicle. They, just once, and then you complain about it and you pay it and then you forget about it. I mean, it's great for the insurance company. They're able to get their money. But if it was parceled out each time you wanted to go to the grocery store, you might say, oh my goodness, this is expensive. So it's been sort of a nice character associated with that particular form of mobility, that it has a way to basically reach into your pocket for its needs without you actually feeling it, or feeling it as much as you might otherwise. So if you really look at somebody in Trenton, every time they get on the bus, they have to put money in some have a pass. I mean, to get a pass is free. I mean, geez, you have to be really in need. Otherwise, you got to reach in your pocket each time and put money in. I mean, each time you ride, it's cost me. It's cost me. Each time I drive my car, I say it's free.
It seems that the shift, there's been a shift in the focus here. I mean, if I think back to the first summit, there was a lot on AI. There was a lot of, what's going on with the technology. Is it ready? And now we're talking about some very different subjects.
Absolutely, because, we talked about those, and most of the technology, I think, has been, or at least should be, good. 200, 300 billion invested in it, absolutely. But now the question is how's all this investment going to return some societal benefits, some value propositions to some user? And so now we have to deal with the sociology of this thing. And this is really what we're talking about here, the sociology of it. How should it be morphed at this particular point in time so that it really serves real needs and there's real value to the community, And in that value, we can extract some money back and in fact, make it into a viable business. Mobility transit, public transit, has such a bad name. Why? Because we haven't been able to figure out how to deliver it so it's really affordable without subsidizing it to an amount that, if you really look at just, whoa, how can it cost that much? A paratransit ride in New Jersey costs, I think New Jersey Transit, what it costs them to deliver that ride, like $60. Now, can you imagine being a wheelchair-bound person and saying, hey, you want to go to the Walmart? It's going to cost you $60. Now, luckily, we have mechanism to say, oh, no, we'll pick up the tab on that one because, oh, my goodness, you need to be able to get to a store, okay? But now this mobility has the opportunity to, I don't know, cost $3, okay? And a lot more people are going to say, hey, I can actually pay you $4, Fred Ford, and let you make $1 profit. The same way as when I go get a latte at whatever, Latte costs so much, but they charge me enough so that they do just fine, thank you. And are happy to be there to provide me the service. Well, why shouldn't mobility be the same way? Now, of course, for some, it may be that not everybody drinks lattes, and they just have a old cup of coffee. But the heavy lifting that one needs to do to be able to allow them to have a latte or have them enjoy and improve their lives is just a lot more palatable from a public subsidy point of view. It's not as much. And for many, it should even be profitable. And, some companies are asked to internally cross-subsidize a little bit. And everybody sort of does this, really. They're, depending on if I go to Newark Airport and try to buy a bottle of water, what am I charged at Newark Airport for a bottle of water versus what I'm charged at the kiosk on Nassau Street? Okay, very different price. And I'm sure they pay a little bit higher rent, and they might have a little bit higher labor costs. But, people are market pricing. That's the American way, and that's fine.
Might not be a fair question, but I'm going to ask both of you. We're at the end of the summit here. Where do we go from here?
The summit, has always been the start of everything. We take every summit as a starting point of the next phase of hard work that we have to keep working on. This year's summit is about scalable commercialization and equitable deployment. The next stop will necessarily have to be that we need to make it happen. The whole purpose of the summit is to bring like-minded people together. They traveled around the world to really be here in person in Princeton, New Jersey after 2020. We think to achieve that was an achievement itself, but really to find dedicated people who wanted to provide mobility to the society, to gather them together to find out solutions, build partnerships, build trusts. I think to some extent we achieved a lot of them, and then we really look forward to working with many of the folks together after the summit.
And I'll ask you the same question, Alan, but on top of that, you were asked more than once, I know, when is this going to happen? How soon can it happen?
Well, before I do that, I think I agree with Jerry. Now it's time for us to do it, okay? And the focus has to be on creating an environment in which we do it. And not just creating the environment, but creating the environment and doing it. Okay, now the question is when. The issue is that when Do we have the various partners that we need to do this ready to commit what they need to commit to do it for the reasons that they want to do it? So I don't really like the term like-minded, because we're all different-minded. We all come at these things from different perspectives. The like piece of like-minded is that basically we're coming up with saying, to benefit society here, this is a reasonable way to do it, and to then come together. So what we need to do is actually see if what we've started here, we've convinced a technology company that has, anybody that's in this business has the wherewithal to do Trenton Moves. The whole question is will they want to do Trenton Moves or take people from downtown City A to Airport B? Okay? You know, which one do they, which customer set are they interested in starting out with to do, as Jerry mentioned, a proof of market, to then take that customer set. And as you do with any business, you start with a set of customers that you believe are going to get value out of the product that you're presenting, and that their value that they get out of that product is sufficient to allow you to be in business to offer it to them. Whether it's a lemonade store or it's a AI, deep learning, blah, 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 you know, it's the same thing, all right? We think that we suggest there is a market for someone who has sufficient technology to come in and start. One of the things I kept repeating at this one, that everybody knows the beauty about this technology and why one would want to do it as a startup or as a business or as a thing, is because its unit costs go down with scale substantially. And not just that, the benefits derived from the technology go up substantially with scale. The going down with scale in costs is, sort of, super linear. In other words, it goes down more per unit than the numbers you go down. In other words, it really gets better. It does reach a plateau of, really this is about as cheap as it's going to get. But with scale, it goes up network-like. As square, as greater than square because of the area and the opportunities. So here you have a business in which I know that we have probably 7 companies in this hemisphere. Okay, we don't have to go to the other hemisphere. In this hemisphere, that can do this. Okay? They have to, so far, none of them have even begun the beginning of business. This is the beginning of a business. That in the beginning, it's just like any investment that's made in any business. The reason you make the investment in the business is that you believe that investment is going to accelerate the adoption. So it's a so-called J curve. You lose some money, and then all of a sudden comes up, and all of a sudden becomes profitable, and you become a rich guy. I mean, the J curve is classic. It's the reason why venture capitalists exist. It's the reason you go borrow money. It's the reason you do any of those things. Is because up front, you can't quite make it, but you're going to invest enough to all of a sudden, that stuff starts returning. Why? Because in fact it gets cheaper and it gets better as it grows. This is as good of this is better than search. This is better than free delivery, I think. So one of those companies, one of those 7, maybe more than one, may decide that after coming here, maybe we want to take this thing seriously. So if any of you 7 want to take it seriously, call me. If nobody calls me, then I guess, Jerry, you and I, we're going to have to do it ourselves. What the hell?
And while we've talked about Trenton a great deal, this is much more than Trenton. It's Trenton Moves, we've been saying, but it's really a moves movement.
Yeah, the moves has always been, the concept. It started as a dream, but now it's getting closer and closer to reality. I think we really think moves is a model for deployment, for scalable AV deployment. It could be Trenton Moves. Today, we are proposing the concept of Mercer Moves. We're involving with different townships of Mercer County. We have the mayor of Perth Amboy. We have representatives from Newark. We have representatives from Chandler, Arizona. And really, we've identified so many places where this technology could deliver real societal benefits to the world. So we hope that after this summit, more communities can actually be introduced to this technology and see the value of this, and eventually deploy mobility for the benefits of the people.
And we saw a lot of enthusiasm here, and we're going to be showing you a lot of the people who were here and what they had to say in the days, weeks, maybe even months to come. So thank you for being with us on the Smart Driving Cars podcast.